Welcome back to Face the State. I'm Ariana Bennett. Thank you for keeping it here. Well, it's hard to overstate the importance of the Truckee River to our community, from drinking water and irrigation to recreation. But there are some elements of the river that are in need of a little help. So there's a local partnership to make the river into its best self. Iris J. Pepard and Christy Chakarolu with the One Truckee River Partnership are here to talk about that. Thank you both so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is exciting because the last time we did a One Truckee River Face the State, it was kind of up in the air, hadn't been passed yet, and now we have a plan, it's moving forward. So let's talk about what the plan is to start.
Go ahead. So the last time we were here, we were working on getting the plan put together and approved, and it was at that point it was essentially being led and coordinated by Nevada Land Trust and Keep Truckee Meadows Beautiful, and we had 130 stakeholders that were providing input on what they felt were important elements of the plan. And through that process, we came up with this beautiful document here that was unanimously adopted by all three local jurisdictions. Unanimously adopted by all three local jurisdictions. I just can't say that enough.
Which is amazing. Which is amazing.
And so now we're working on implementing the plan, and we have hired a partnership coordinator, which we're very excited about, to continue to move the partnership forward.
Okay, and so moving it forward, means specific projects, things that will clean up the river, make it, better for recreation, safer, better water quality. All this stuff is within that document.
Exactly, and also down to little itty bitty things like having life jacket stations and signage along the river. I think within the next couple of years, people are going to start seeing changes as far as seeing actual new signage along the river. We put mile markers along the river that people hopefully have noticed. It was part of our public safety plan to have mile markers along the river. So if someone fell in the river and they needed to call to report that, the mile markers allow public safety teams to be able to track where that person is depending on the flows and get them more quickly. And so it's things, little things like that, and then big things too, like having restrooms along the river that are going to be well maintained and able to be used by residents like you and I who are going down there to recreate and enjoy. And so there's a lot of different pieces, and I can tell you that right now we have 30 to 50 really dedicated partners that are part of a core group that are helping to advance 4 of the priorities that we've identified, and that includes things like sanitation and housing, signage and public safety, water quality, and then funding and metrics, because we don't want to clearly, we don't want this to be a plan that sits on the shelf. The river is way too important for that. We want to make sure that we are carrying this plan forward and making sure that it continues for the life of the river. We don't want anything to fall apart.
Yeah, so really a lot of moving pieces in it, and it's really ambitious. So Iris, I understand your position is kind of in charge of, coordinating all of that, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, and I've just, I'm about a month in, and so I've been meeting a lot of the key stakeholders and really trying to strategize how to have everybody work together most effectively. And it's a very ambitious project, and I'm really excited about all the partners that are involved.
Now you're kind of coming at this from a separate perspective, different perspective than being like a member of one of the agencies involved and then coming up. So I think that's interesting. When you look at this plan and this document, in your experience, what kind of what scope are we talking about here? I mean, is it going to be like a night and day change for the Truckee River, or is it little fixes?
Well, I think for a lot of people it's overwhelming because there are so many moving parts to it. Mm-hmm. And I think not only that, are there a lot of goals that want to be accomplished, but then there's a lot of people that are involved. But that's really key, because it's about having folks not work in a silo, but starting to work together and also know what each other are doing. So it's a lot of agencies, it's a lot of residents, and it's really spending some extra time to have people come together to understand each other's work, because a lot of it is doing, have similar goals. So it's best to be able to come together and share those so that work isn't duplicated and we can really move forward together.
Okay, so what we hear from people who use the river frequently, obviously people love the Truckee, but the complaints we hear is concerns about homeless camps and trash dumping, littering, that sort of thing, safety issues. Obviously, those are complex problems, but what's within this plan to kind of address that big issue?
Well, I think, as Christy mentioned, the bathrooms, because, you know, folks that live along a river, that's an issue for them, and it's an issue for people that are walking along and recreating along the river. So we're really hoping that that initiative will move forward and, you know, start to help to clean up things that, you know, obviously should be going into a restroom instead of down the river.
Right.
Well, and honestly, it was the accumulation of trash along the river that really precipitated this plan in the first place. We received an anonymous donation a couple years ago, it was in 2013, from a woman saying, please clean up the mess along the river. And, you know, it was one of those things where, yeah, we could use that funding to organize more cleanups, but what are the systemic issues? And that's where we realized that we had all these great agencies doing a lot of really good things along the river, but their efforts weren't coordinated in a collaborative way. And that's what this plan does. And so I just am very excited because we're making progress on it. It is painful because, you know, we all want this done yesterday and it's slow. You know, you have to move slow sometimes to move fast. There's a saying out there about that. And when you want to get a good product, you have to make sure that all the right people are engaged. And so we have incredible support, fortunately, from a lot of the key groups, from the Truckee Meadows Water Authority to the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection. City of Sparks is a key player, as well as Washoe County and City of Reno. We've got all the local jurisdictions and many of their agencies, from public works to law enforcement. And that's really important because, you know, it could be, you know, like a resident like me, I could say, oh, you know what, I want lights along the river at night so if I feel safe. But a public safety person will say, you know what, no, because that's going to attract more illegitimate use along the river. And so there's a lot of complex issues for very simple, seemingly simple ideas. And the bathrooms are a really good example.
Okay, so yeah, bathroom sounds like a great idea. How are those going to get paid for? How, in general, are all of these initiatives being funded?
It's a great question. Funding, of course, is the key to everything, and fortunately we have received funding from the Truckee River Fund through the Community Foundation, which is supported by TUMWA, and so that has been key, as well as the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection. David Bobsey has provided support, as well as Naomi Dewar. You know, it's the funding for this effort is very multi-layered, and when we talk about trying to get restrooms, that's a whole other thing, because there's the cost of the restroom itself, but then there's also the ongoing cost of the maintenance.
Right.
And so I can tell you that right now the Sanitation and Housing Group, we're looking at something called the Portland Loo, which the City of Portland has found to be very helpful because it helps to reduce illegitimate use in the restrooms, and it's easier to clean, but they're pretty expensive, and there's the cost of maintaining them, and so it's trying to figure out all those different pieces.
Yeah. Okay, so other than the restrooms, you mentioned some lighting. Are there any big, exciting projects, parts of this that you think the public should know about? We only have a couple minutes left, so.
Well, there's the One Truckee River month of May, which is going to be an annual event, and it is funded by Renown. And it's a lot of different activities from a lot of different groups in the area, all happening down at the river. And so we have kicked it off for the first time this year and hope for it to continue to years to come.
Okay. How about you? Any other projects you think people should know about?
I'm really excited about the master signage plan, actually. I think if we can get a comprehensive master signage plan completed and then the signs actually installed, because we have the funding to get the signs installed, that's going to make things along the river a lot nicer and more cohesive.
What will be on the sign? Sorry.
Well, just as far as where people are along the route and directional signs, and, you know, helping people to really embrace and enjoy the river a little bit more. Think about the concept of like a linear park, you know, being able to enjoy the river from one end of Sparks to the other end of Reno, you know, and have signage and a map and everything that connects and is cohesive.
Yeah, the path is really great that runs along the river. There are just some parts of it that could use a little bit of help, and you know, it'd be neat to see it all come together the way you guys have envisioned.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so how can people get involved? What do you need? I assume volunteers are always welcome.
Yeah, volunteers for May is One Truckee River Month. That was definitely a challenge for us this last month, trying to find the volunteers for that. But funding is a key component, and also knowledge. We want people to be aware of this effort and educate themselves. We have onetruckeeriver.org. People can go and actually review the plan and visit the plan. And if it's something that they care about, you know, call your local elected officials and say, you know what? We're excited about the river. Thank you for helping to support that, because the fact, again, that this plan passed unanimously, I think is a real testament to the elected officials in our community. It was really a wonderful thing.
Yeah, no, it's important, and it does bring together a lot of different elements that before didn't have a unified, you know, presence. So I think that's very, very cool. Okay, well, we have a little under a minute left. Final message to people, things you want them to know before we go?
Pack out what you pack in. You know, enjoy the river, but definitely pack out what you pack in. And you know, the thing that I think a lot of people need to realize is the river is the source of our drinking water. And so when they are washing their car, all those suds that are going down into the storm drains are actually going into the river. And so, you know, it's just thinking about things like that, common sense things. You know, this is why we're asking people to pick up their dog poop when they go, because that all rinses down to the river. So we just all need to be more aware that we live in a really interconnected community and a basin that all drains to our water supply, which is the Truckee River.
Good to know. All right.
And that's our drinking water,
Yeah.
85% of our drinking water.
Yeah.
That's right. I think maybe a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you both so much.
Hey, thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, that is it for this episode of Face the State. But for more information on this or to see past episodes, you can just head to our website. That's ktvn.com. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll see you next week.